Right, so what do you think then? Boris Johnson, I mean, he's got these MPs who are rebelling against what, to me, seems relatively sensible measures. I'm going to start with you, Albie.
So I wonder why you think vaccine passports are a relatively sensible measure, because actually all of the data that we've seen in Scotland, there's a whole 70-page report which has gone into vaccine passports, and it actually shows that they're relatively ineffective at stopping transmission. So I guess my question is, what is the point in spending all of this political capital on a measure which doesn't actually achieve anything when it comes to stopping the transmission of COVID?
Well, that's a good question, but the reason I think I'd refer to you, for example, if you go to countries in other parts of the world, they quite effectively ensure that certain diseases are obliterated from their, from their countries by using a vaccine passport scheme. So the reason I don't object to it is because I've already accepted it. So I don't really see it's a big deal in accepting it, whether it works or not. And I suspect that if you look at whether these things work, I suspect it's more to do with how you're assessing that data. I suspect that they do actually work if they're done properly, but are they going to be done properly? That would be my real question. But what do you think?
I agree. I don't see the problem with it. I think logistically it's going to be difficult. There was a Scottish game, a Scotland football match. And the nature of football fans is that they turn up about 10 minutes before kick-off. They like to have a few bevies. I know I'm stereotyping and sweeping generalisation, but it's true. Particularly in Scotland as well, they love a few pints. And of course, people weren't getting in until half-time because they were having to look at the vaccine passports. And all of a sudden, you got thousands of people. So it wasn't a staggered, practical way of using vaccine passports. Albie, I sort of disagree with you about the efficacy of being double jabbed and being able to prove it, or having a lateral flow test and being able to demonstrate on the day that you're symptom-free, you're COVID-free, because we know that you can still transmit COVID, but you're less likely to do it. So what you're doing is you're mitigating, you're giving yourself as much chance as possible by going into an arena with, I think, socially minded, like-minded individuals who understand it's important to do what you can to protect society. And I don't see the problem. And I know you said you don't think it works, but I would ask you to demonstrate that with some evidence, because I think it can only work. I'm not saying it's foolproof, but you're less likely to transmit. So if you are with 1,000 other people less likely to transmit, then surely that is working.
I didn't say I didn't think it worked. I said that there was a 70-page evidence report that the Scottish Government commissioned into the efficacy of vaccine passports in Scotland, which of course have been around for much longer in Scotland than in England, and they'll be implemented next Tuesday or Wednesday, I believe. And they actually found that they had no measurable effect on stopping coronavirus transmission. And I accept your point about other countries, but I think it's probably important to look at the four nations of Britain, where we've got the similar structures in place with vaccines and things like that. And if the evidence in Scotland, one of the countries in Great Britain, is showing that they're not that effective, then what's the point in upsetting lots of people to implement them?